Hello supply chain friends. So in this video, I will cover with you the top 5 supply chain planning software. And I will do this by using the famous Gartner Magic Quadrant, which is by far the most well-known industry benchmarking tool, which is used by companies before they choose which software to use. And I will also cover with you some free and paid learning resources if you want to upskill yourself on some of these software. My name is Jamil Hai, and I've been working in supply chain management positions across South Asia, Middle East, and North America for the last 20 years. And my mission is to help you build real life skills for your job and career that they don't teach you in college. And if you are preparing for a supply chain job interview anytime soon, you should definitely book a session with me, because I'm going to take your resume, the job description you're applying for, based on a combination of those two and my 20 years of experience, will give you some laser guided tips and tricks which will maximize your chances of success. So go ahead now and book your session. So let's talk a little bit about the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So what Gartner does is, and Gartner, by the way, is one of the most well-known industry research or consulting firms in the supply chain space. So their footprint across the globe is very evident. And they do these magic quadrants not only for supply chain planning software, but almost everything that touches supply chain from a technology aspect. So they also publish things like the best warehouse management software, the best order management software, the best middleware, and so on. But in, of course, this video, we will just focus on their latest Magic Quadrant, which they have published in April 2025. Typically, this Magic Quadrant is a 2x2 matrix where they put the completeness of the vision on their x-axis, which is basically how complete is this software, which basically means that they will not include software in supply chain which only give you solutions on supply planning but miss out on demand planning. And I will talk a little bit about their selection criteria in a second. And on the y-axis, they have basically the ease of implementation, which is also a very important aspect, because you can get the best and the greatest software, but if it's too difficult to implement in an organization, then it takes away from the effectiveness of that software, or if it's very difficult to train on, and so on and so forth. And this concept of the 2x2 matrix is very powerful. Alex Lowy, who is also the author of the famous book, No Problem, which I've got it over here. It's one of the very good books. If you want to just understand the fundamentals of problem solving, this is a great book to read. He's also written a famous book called The Power of the 2x2 Matrix. And you can actually buy that book by clicking on a link in the description of this video. And in that book, he has basically covered how these 2x2 matrices can be a great tool for decision making. I think one of the most famous 2x2 matrices is the Eisenhower matrix, which is basically used in time management, where you can compartmentalize your urgent and important and not urgent and not important tasks. So that is probably the best known implementation of the 2x2 matrix, but in the industry, it is used for a lot of different things, and this Magic Quadrant is one of them. So now let's also talk a little bit about how does Gartner put these companies in these different quadrants, right? So there are 4 criteria that they use, which you can see on the screen here. One is any solution in planning must have a demand planning module and a supply planning module. Of course, that goes without saying, because without demand and supply management, there is no planning. It also needs to be having a pretty strong end-to-end supply chain planning aspect. So how it connects, let's say, raw materials planning to finished goods planning, to the overall flow, the creation of the BOM, and making sure that it's all very well connected with the ERP solution. So that's another big criteria. And more recently, what has become very, very crucial for the supply chain planning software is the financial aspect. Like historically, a lot of companies, their supply planners or their demand planners would only work in the quantity dimension, right? So some companies would use tons or eaches. Procter & Gamble, I remember, used to use, they defined their own metric called MSUs, which was basically, it was a complex calculation where they would bring everything under one denomination, which is like, if they want to compare a specific comparable quantity of a detergent to a diaper, then MSU was that common denominator that was used. But more recently, and this was one of the things I learned when I moved to Mars as well, which was that as a supply chain planning professional, you also need to have an equally strong understanding of the financials. So how does all of this translate into cost and revenue and so on and so forth. So in the Gartner selection criteria, the financial aspect of a supply chain planning software is also very, very important, so that can you convert all of this data into what does this mean from a cost point of view. Because at the end of the day, remember, supply chain is about managing the cost, service and cash of an organization. So if you are spending too much money or you are spending too much on inventory, then your cost and cash bucket will get affected, and you might be getting good service, but then it will come at a very expensive cost and so on and so forth. So therefore, when Gartner puts these companies into these quadrants, these are the 4 criteria that they use. So let's now move to our top 5 list, and on number 5, based on the Gartner list. Now, of course, Gartner does not provide any rankings. I'm just using them based on where they have placed these companies in their matrix, and I'm only picked up companies which are in their leadership quadrant, which is basically the top right quadrant, which means that they are very good in terms of the completeness of vision, and they are also very good at the ease of implementation. So if you look at that, you've got Blue Yonder to start with. And Blue Yonder, there's a bit of a history, because Blue Yonder, some of you who have been in supply chain for a long time, they would probably know some names like JDA, Managistics. So I think the way this happened was, I think it was JDA, Managistics, I think, was purchased by JDA, or it was the other way around. And then eventually they all merged with Blue Yonder. And now Blue Yonder is one of this very well-known suite of software who not only offer supply chain planning solutions, but they also offer a number of other solutions as well. So if you look at their core modules, they've got demand planning, they've got supply planning, the S&OP module, the inventory optimization module, the manufacturing planning and scheduling module. They have got a WMS, as I mentioned, and they've also got a TMS. So very, very popular software. Now, if you want to upskill yourself on Blue Yonder, they have got their own Blue Yonder education services, which, by the way, one of the challenges with these software is that if you really want to upskill yourself, the best way is to work for a company that uses this software, because then you get all the training for free, because their paid versions of training programs are normally very expensive. And I will show you some free ways to learn more about the software in a second. But if you look at Blue Yonder itself, they have got this website called Blue Yonder Education Services. You can see there are a number of lessons that you can take. Most of these are instructor-led courses. So, but like I said, when you go and purchase them, you'll find out the cost is pretty astronomical. But of course, it kind of provides you a lot of different insights into the different tools. You can take a modular approach in terms of learning. You can see almost all the modules are covered on this education services website. Now, of course, if you also want to just get a hold of what Blue Yonder is and what kind of solution it offers, and you don't want to spend any money, then you can also go to their YouTube page. So Blue Yonder has got a pretty strong YouTube presence as well. And you can see on their YouTube channel, you can find a lot of their industry implementations, case studies of different companies they have worked with, how they are applying the solution in different areas of supply chain, like omni-channel and all of those kind of things. So a lot of different ways to learn through their YouTube channel as well. Now, of course, the challenge will be that you won't be able to learn the specifics of how the software works, because of course, those trainings are not for free. But if you have got an idea about, or if you've got experience of working on another supply chain software, then maybe just watching these videos will give you a little bit of an idea on where the edge of Blue Yonder lies versus some of the other players in the industry. On number 4, I've got O9. Now, O9 is also a software which has emerged more recently, but it has emerged with a bang, especially for some of their AI capabilities. They are very well known. A lot of big companies have implemented this. O9 is based out of Dallas, United States. So it is definitely one of the most powerful supply chain planning software out there today. Now, as you can see here, Even O9 has a pretty strong learning arm, so you can go and take their trainings virtually, live classroom trainings, self-paced trainings, and so on. You can also get their certifications. Once again, these things cost a lot of money, so therefore, like I said previously on Blue Yonder, the best way to get yourself upskilled is to work for a company that uses the software or it's implementing. I mean, implementation is probably the best time to learn a software because that's where you are doing a lot of testing. And here you can see that there are a lot of different certifications available on their website. You can be a champion and so on and so forth. So if your company is already using Blue Yonder, then you can look at this and you can ask your line manager to make sure that you are on some of these upskilling programs as well. So that could be a great resource of learning for you and a great way to also build your credentials, right? Because I talk a lot about on my channel about supply chain certifications. If you know some of these software, this is sometimes even more powerful than having a certification, because imagine, let's say you have the experience of implementing O9 in one company, that makes you a very, very ideal candidate for another company who is trying to do a similar implementation. And that is where you can switch the job and maybe make more money and cash out on the knowledge that level that you're getting. So upskilling yourself on these tools can be super helpful in terms of building your career credentials. Now let's move to number 3. Now on number 3, I've got a tool called RELEX. This is based in Finland. They are also one of the leaders as per the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So let's look at the core modules of RELEX. They've got demand planning, they've got inventory and replenishment planning, they've got the space and assortment planning, pricing and promotions, manufacturing planning, which synchronizes production and demand forecasts, retail operations, supply chain collaboration, strategic planning, diagnostics. So a pretty complete suite of modules which is offered by RELEX as well. They are also pretty strong in the AI and machine learning space, where all these modules are powered by some of the newer technologies which are available out there. Now, RELEX has a pretty good YouTube channel as well. Once again, you can look at a number of different case studies on their YouTube channel where you can see how they have worked with other companies, how they have implemented. Of course, because it's a Finland-based software, it's very Europe-heavy. But still, I mean, you can find a lot of interesting stories about how they have implemented AI, how they have used with the software with clients and so on and so forth. Number 2, I've got Kinaxis, and Kinaxis is a Canada-based tool, and they are also very strong, a very complete package, very well known both across the United States and Canada, and of course, and Europe as well. They have got in their core module list, once again, demand and supply planning, of course, goes without saying. They've got an inventory optimization module, sales and operations planning, IBP, production scheduling, transportation, and analysis, and integration platform, and all of those kind of things. So a very complete platform. Now, if you are based in India and you want to upskill yourself on Kinaxis, and I will also cover this in OMP, which is the next one coming up, is an institute in India called Pro Excellency, and they run very specific programs around Kinaxis upskilling, which you can see here. There is a Kinaxis rapid response training. You can take that. Of course, it's a paid program, but it will really help you upskill yourself in Kinaxis as well. And then finally, that takes me to number 1, which is OMP. OMP is a Belgium-based solution. It is actually the leader. If you look, if I go back to the Magic Quadrant this year, they came out on really the top, right? So they are leading in ease of implementation and completeness of their vision. If you look at their core modules for OMP, they have got a demand forecasting module, sales and operations planning module, and inventory planning and optimization module, production planning and scheduling, very, very important in supply chain to connect your planning back from the factories all the way to your finished goods and warehouses. Of course, they've got a supply planning module as well. They have got something called supply collaboration and management, which will really help you connect the dots between your suppliers and your external partners. They've got a DRP module as well for distribution planning. And then, of course, they've got a lot of great tools for performance monitoring and analytics and data integration as well. And once again, if you want to upskill yourself on OMP, once again, Pro Excellency in India is a fantastic option where they provide OMP supply chain planning training. And you can really use this as a way to upskill yourself, even if you're not working for a company that is implemented OMP or that is using OMP. So a great way to upskill yourself, even if you are in a job search mode and trying to upskill yourself on these software. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've also made videos on topics like how to prepare for a supply planner job interview and how to prepare for a demand planner job interview, which you can watch by clicking over here. Keep watching.